Are you ready? Can crush us. It don't really get no better than this the podcast that you're looking for. If you're really heavy into wrestling, hosted by the Mark. Energy that's so amazing. Gotta keep it entertaining. Rep the Can Crusher Nation. Yeah, you know what's going down in the ring. Lights out when you hit a ding ding. Knock them out like boom, bada bing. Hold it down, you can crown me the king. Got a shout out to the Miz and Duke the Dumpster. We choke slamming everybody, power driving, hit them with a face buster. Yeah, this the show you need, and it ain't no need for waiting. Mark, hold it down for the Can Crusher Nation. All about wrestling and keep it entertaining. Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Time to break them, let's go. Yeah. Can Crushers. Yeah. Can Crushers, let's go.
Hey, this is former WWE superstar Duke the Dumpster Drosy, and you are listening to the Can Crushers Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is going to be the cheesiest podcast, the cheesiest spotlight I've ever done. Yeah, you can tell. We're going to talk a lot about cheese. I'm actually excited about this because I need more knowledge in cheese. I'm going to have the world's cheesiest professional wrestler, Big Daddy Cheese, come on and talk on the spotlight today. Super excited. I don't care that he wrestles. This guy actually loves cheese. And I'm a generic cheese guy. I want to know more. I know about the good cheeses out there. I just don't know where to get them or the taste, flavors, and sensations you're supposed to have around them. Listen, provolone Swiss, I'm good with. I like those. Munster, I'm good with. I don't like American cheese. Yeah, this is going to be a wrestling podcast that talks about cheese. So I'm super excited to have Big Daddy Cheese come on the show. Ruining it right off the bat because I know what's going to be Gouda for me is Gouda for you, right? Yeah, I don't know. I hope he has better puns than that. I really do. Before we get to the interview, we got to do our due diligence. And it is Collar and Elbow. Hats, hoodies, tees, all the cool stuff that Al Snow and his hooligans have down there at Collar and Elbow. Thank them for sponsoring us. Season 7 continuing to be a sponsor. This is awesome. We love them. And they have an amazing merch. And merch, all the merch, everything they have. Listen, I have my Dusty Rhodes shirt on right now. My Good Brothers, sweats, and I'm ready to go. That's the way I rep when I'm getting set to do interviews. I throw it on just because I'm that cool. If you guys want some stuff, check out collarandelbow.com. And when you buy all your products, use the promo code CANCRUSHERS. All one word, capital C and can, capital C and crushers. You'll save 10% and you'll help out the podcast as well. So yes, how about that? That's awesome. You know where to find us. On Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Slide into our DMs if you'd like to be part of the show. We love having wrestlers come on the show. We're going to tell you how the Big Cheese, the Big Daddy Cheese, the Cheese Master, hooked up with us. So, so super excited about that. He slid into a DM. He was cheesy and slimy and salty. And, I don't know. This is going to go downhill fast. You can also email us, cancrusher69@gmail.com. Guys, you can hear us everywhere podcasts are. Really, really. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon, Ask Your Alexa. The list goes on and on. Thank you for the support, and we love it. Continue to like, follow, and share, rate, and all do all that cool stuff because it really, really helps us out. Yeah. We did take a downtick in ratings recently in Thailand. We dropped like 5 spots in Thailand. So, guys, we need some help. Get us back up over in Thailand and everything like that. Yeah. I'm not kidding. I get them every week. I don't know why people hate us in Thailand now. I don't know. All right, here comes Al to tell you more about Collar and Elbow. And then when we come back, Big Daddy Cheese.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. the wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
This is Julia Lynn, aka The Giant Piece, and you are listening to the best podcast ever, the Can Crushers Podcast.
And welcome back to Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Guys, I told you how excited I was, and it's going to be cheesy podcast time. He's going to have a lot of puns. I had a couple that are probably bad, but listen, this is the world's cheesiest professional wrestler, Big Daddy Cheese. Welcome to Can Crushers. How the hell you doing? I'm like overexcited today.
Brother, if I was any better,
Here they come.
I would be cheese triplets. I am your Gorgonzola rock and roller. I am your Sultan of Swiss, the amazing Asiago, the Havarti heathen, recently Big Daddy Cheese, the American cheese, baby. I am the cheese. And I'm happy to be here on the Can Crushers Podcast, baby. I've been listening to you for a while. I can't wait to talk to you. I'm glad that you had me on.
I'm excited. We're going to fourth wall down. Boom. Here it comes. Listen, guys, I didn't know who the hell Cheese was. He reaches out to me. I'm not going to lie to people. Yeah. He reaches out to me. He's like, dude, how the hell you are? I saw you almost died a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, thank you. That means a lot. I mean, our paths have not crossed, right?
Not at all.
Not at all. But it just means, you're a human being. I'm a human being. You just reach out and you're like, how you doing? You just, the picture from when I was in a hospital, I cried before I answered you. So that's me. It means a lot. So thank you.
It's basic human decency. And it's one of those things where you're like, I follow you guys on Instagram. Shout out to Can Crushers Podcast on Instagram.
At Can Crusher 69. No, go ahead.
But I've had some people who I've crossed paths with, been on there, and of course, when you follow, like I'm an engaged follower, so if I see that a podcast, an entity, a person, a fellow pro wrestler has posted something, I'll react to it. Sometimes they'll never see it, and to be honest with you, I didn't expect you to respond at all. Because this is how I operate. I try and put something out there good, and I'm not like trying to Tony Robbins you. I'm not trying to put on a facade. Like this is me. This is who I am. This is how I do it. This is how I roll. But I try to put something out there good. And if something comes back, then that's a huge bonus. But the worst case scenario is that, I just put something good out there. That's it. And I saw that you were in the hospital, and I saw that you had a couple of posts after that. And I just recently became a father. And so I've learned that, life is precious. It's important to check on people. And when people check on my wife, AKA the Cheesette, after she's
Baby Swiss.
Yeah, Baby Swiss, Baby Belle is her ring name. But when people check on us, it's like, oh, how's the baby doing? Bet you're tired, all that. Yes, all true. But when people ask about my wife, and they ask me how she's doing, because, she's the one who did all the work. That's something that means the world. So there's no way that I think that if, as a fellow human being, first and foremost, there's no reason that we can't just check on each other, whether I know you or not. Now, some people might take it weird because people don't typically do that, but I wanted to. I'm glad you're doing well, but I honestly was not expecting to be on the podcast. I'm just super happy.
Yeah, then I shot my shot, and I'm like, dude, thanks. Why don't you say this on the podcast? Just to gloat a little bit. And here you are. So, yeah. And I did some research, don't get me wrong. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to be full of puns. I can't wait to have him on the show. I'm going to freaking fast forward him to the straight of the line. Let's go.
I love it. Yeah, but the puns are my favorite. Like I'm, as I gave with you with my intro, I've had to, like, I've done those so many times on when I'm cutting a promo where I'm just like, I have to kind of, I don't know. I need to do like a reel where it's just like a sped up version of what I say as my intro, because I've just every time, and people are like, just do your thing. Like I was, just as an example, not to bogart all the time here, but
it's
like
your time. It's your spotlight. Nobody wants to hear about Mark.
Oh, come on. There's plenty of people. You got some really Mark fanatics out there, I'm sure.
I do. Some creepers too. By the way, I love you too, creepers. But go ahead.
Yeah. But no, I partnered with a local. I live in Florida, near the beach in St. Pete, and I partnered with some local guys who are just doing this waterway and beach cleanup thing. And I'm also a small business owner, and I use that as an opportunity to help them with the tools that I have with my small business. Let them use a trailer to get rid of some trash that they picked up from the beach area and stuff like that. And a lot of people out on the street, your regular working people, like they haven't experienced pro wrestling at all or in a long time.
That's so true. Yep.
Right. I mean, we as pro wrestlers, pro wrestling fans, we live in this bubble where you're just kind of like, okay, everybody knows about wrestling. Everybody knows the lingo. Everybody's hip to this. Everybody's hip to that. But like if you walk around somewhere and you talk to somebody just off, like literally off the street, odds are they're going to look at you like pro wrestling, and then some synapses fire in their brain, and they're thinking of your classics, like your Hulk Hogan's, or some of them will get, confused and be like, oh yeah, like the fighting, like the MMA stuff. And it's like, yeah, but not, and then you just kind of give up and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, but, that.
Yeah. But back to my story, this group called Divers Down Pollution Project, super interesting, really cool group of guys that just got together. They gathered up volunteers and they just wanted to clean up the beach over here. And I'm like, shoot, I'm down with that. And so, I go to help them out, and they're just like, hey, do you want to record a video so we can post it on our social media? And I was like, oh yeah. And they were like, really? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, okay, we're here with the cheese. And, it's just like, it's going to be your basic stock video. Like, we cleaned up the beach today. We did a couple of things and blah, blah, blah. Cheese, do you have anything you want to say? Yeah, it's the cheese, the Gorgonzola rock and roller, the souls out of Swiss, and we're here to clean up the beaches here in Tampa Bay and all over Florida, baby. When are you gonna? And then like the camera shuts off, and they're all just like losing their minds.
And it's a normal day for us. We're like, oh, you dropped the ball on the brother. You need to get more brother. And they're like, what?
These kids are like, they're like, you're so calm and like normal, but then as the cheese, you're not calm and you're not normal, but it's really good and we like it. And I'm like, yeah, me too.
This is my real life. This business owner and everything. This is what I hide it in the closet. I love being the cheese. If I could be the cheese 24/7, that's what I am.
100%. That's like, people talking about living the gimmick. That was the gimmick. Like me, me as a person walking around with my small business and doing the things that I do, not as a family man, as a family is the most important thing to me, but like, that's the gimmick,
right.
Is like the day-to-day stuff is the gimmick. The real me is like when I get to be the cheese and, make all the puns, slap guys in the face with cheese, come up with really crazy, sounding finishing moves and, make silly videos and all that stuff. We're getting to all that. We're getting to all of that.
We got to do the generic things first because I like to know your background and all of this. So how'd you meet your wife? No. It's horrible. Who introduced you to wrestling as, little cheese Swiss or, mom, dad? How did you find wrestling?
So this is, it's my favorite part of it is that I was introduced to wrestling by my maternal grandparents. My grandmother, who I affectionately referred to as my nanny, and my grandfather, who I also affectionately referred to as my papa, they were like the best grandparents in the world. They lived very close to us. Obviously, by the time I was born, they were both retired, but they had lived these very full lives that, they'd run restaurants and things like that. And my grandfather was, he was a man's man. Like I can put on all the bravado that I want as the cheese and body slam somebody twice my size and drop a, cheesy elbow on them. But that guy makes me look like I'm just a puff of cheese dust. I mean, he was a World War II veteran. He was a Purple Heart recipient. He was a coal miner, originally from West Virginia, and he had a really hard scrabble life. Like he just had to work for everything he ever had, and that was the same thing for my grandmother. So they loved wrestling, and since I spent so much time with them, I loved wrestling. And Sting was my grandfather's favorite, and so Sting became my favorite.
Surfer Sting. We're saying Surfer Sting, right?
Surfer Sting, just post Blade Runner Sting. Like We're talking early Surfer Sting.
Clash of the Champions era.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the number one Sting in my book.
Fatal Encounter, it just all the Stings of yesteryear that you just look back on with nostalgia. So I watched wrestling with them all the time, nonstop. But when my grandfather passed away, my grandmother and I kept watching it together because it made her feel close to him. And it just was one of those things that it just stuck with me for life. There was a brief hiatus, as one does when you get into adolescence, but it wasn't because I was super into all the normal things. I was, girls and, just sports and all this wonderful stuff that you kind of go through. But my brother and I would always fight. He's about 5 years younger than I am. We would always fight. When he got big enough to fight me, he would always want to fight me and always want to pick a fight. He'd always do it when it was wrestling time.
Of course.
And I'm trying to watch Nitro, and this kid comes in here and he turns off the TV.
Strike one. I hate your brother. Sorry. Strike one.
We are talking Monday Night Wars peak. We are talking NWO. We are talking Hollywood Hogan, Crow Sting. Well, I know some people don't like calling him Crow Sting, but that's what it was. That's what it was. So and he turns it off just trying to pick a fight with me. So I took a chair. It was a small Little Tykes plastic chair. So just so everybody can know, I wasn't a violent person back then. But I took a small chair that was there's three of us. We had a younger sister. And I took one of her little play chairs and I clocked him over the head with it. And it just, typically I could do something like that and make a loud noise and tap him a little bit and he would just leave me alone. Well,
you probably concussed the hell out of them. Those little tight things are solid.
They really were, and I gave him a little bit too much credit for being soft. But the worst thing that could have happened was when my dad walked in at that very moment. And he sees me hitting the chair, and then he looks at what's on the, because I had turned the TV back on because my brother and I were jaw jacking back and forth. He sees that wrestling's on the TV. He's like, "You're copying this stuff. No more wrestling." So wrestling was banned in our house for 2 years. So I missed don't get me wrong, I would sneak off to my grandma's and would watch wrestling with her. But I missed like some vital moments in wrestling as a kid. And thankfully for tape trading and like being able to tape stuff and now the libraries we have, being able to go back and rediscover things, I can get those memories back. But yeah, it was banned for a while, and but then it came back around, and it just stuck with me. And so that's the origin story of young Swiss cheese loving wrestling.
I love first of all, anytime that it's grandparents, because that's where I got mine. Like my grandfather, everybody in the family knew he was deaf, but he would have, if you're outside a mile away, you could hear my grandmother's TV. And it's one of those old, big tube TVs that it sounds like you're at a rock concert. Yeah, he had that on. So, NWA back in the day was on, and you could hear Ric Flair or Tommy Rich or anybody coming in, and you're like, oh, my grandmother hated it. LJ, turn it on or put your hearing aids in. Well, boom, I'm now just, don't go watch that with Grandpa, so I'm watching it with Grandpa. I'm that kid. I'm an idiot. All of that. Essentially the same story that you had, we did with my best friend. He could probably tell you the exact pay-per-view. We're up at his house, pay-per-view, small, maybe 24-inch TV, shit's going awry. We're just tussling. Somebody's head ends up through the drywall. His mother walks in the door as the head is in the drywall. Above his mom's and dad's pizzeria, 30 boys just thrown out. Get the hell out of. He could never host pay-per-view again. So they all became at my house then. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at some point I need to hear more about this pizzeria, this magical pizzeria.
Oh, yeah. I'll just fly some pizza down from Pennsylvania to Florida. We'll make that happen.
Okay.
So you kind of filled in some of the other lines I wanted to know. So when you get the, oh my God, the aha moment, after sports and no wrestling, that you're signing up for this, you're going to be in the business.
Well, I was a fairly aged piece of cheddar before I even.
You got me.
You like it?
Yeah, I do.
I got you. But yeah, no, it was something I'd always wanted to do. And and I don't want to bring anything down, but, people, we talked about humanity and things like this in the beginning of the podcast, but as a young man in my 20s, I was living my life for other people. Now, I have no issues with people living in, if they want to live a life of servitude, if they want to live a life to protect their family, if they want to do whatever you want to do with your life, you have free will, you have autonomy. But it wasn't for me, but I couldn't see a way to get out of it. What I mean by that is I was working government jobs that were just bogging me down, and I was just doing them to pay bills. And relationships I was in, I was taken for granted. And I was just a guy who was just, I wasn't going with the flow. I was going with somebody else's flow. I was paying for somebody else's mortgage. I was living someone else's dream.
Treading water, it sounds like, essentially.
Exactly. I was treading water, and I was told I shouldn't do these things. And I was kind of chastised for having, thinking outside the box. And again, that's on me. I made those conscious decisions. I was scared. Never been shy. I've never had an issue talking in public. I've never had an issue with physicality or anything like that. But I woke up one day, and it was after I quit the government job. I quit the government jobs. I stopped being government cheese. There you go. There's another one.
Head cheese.
So I quit I quit the government jobs and started my own. And actually, before I quit the last government job I did, I started training. But the aha moment was just like, I was at a WrestleMania. And it was when they were in one of the last times they were in New Orleans, and it was they had WrestleCon there,
Right.
and there was a booth there for Jay Lethal's school down here in Florida, and I just out of curiosity, I just went over and talked to the guys, and both guys are my friends. One of the guys has been like a mentor to me, business, and he's been like a business partner. He's traveled down the road with me. We've worked together in the ring. We've, all this stuff. His name's RJ, and he'll hate that I'm saying anything bad about him because his gimmick is he's the scoundrel. But he has a very successful YouTube channel, and he does reselling, and he's a full-time reseller now, and he's living his dream. He quit his job, and he's now living his dream. And I think he does a little bit of wrestling on the side here every now and again, but he stays pretty busy. And so all I said, I was like, man, I don't know, guys. I'm in my 30s. What am I going to do? Maybe I can be a referee or a manager. And they both looked at me and they're like, I'm not Andre NBA level size, but I'm fairly decently sized guy.
You're a tall guy. Compared to 5'8" me, you're tall.
they're like, nah, man, you if you're a manager and you're bigger than the guy you're managing, it's not going to look good. If you're a referee and you're bigger than everybody in the ring, and where we are in the Florida indie circuit, I'm a little bit bigger than most of the ones that are out there. You've got a lot of quick guys and a lot of, really built guys, but they're not a lot of, just like big. And I pride myself on this. I have the look of like an 80s wrestler. I've got my gut, but I also have the shoulders to prove that I can carry you around and throw you around when I need to. But they said, no, just try it out. And finally, I just went, I went and signed up and committed to it and trained under Jay Lethal.
How amazing was that, by the way? I've always, and not just because you're on here and if he's listening, cool, but I've been a Jay Lethal fan from before the woo-off. Do you imagine there was Jay Lethal before the woo-off when him and AJ were ripping the house down? Yeah, Jay Lethal's been amazing.
He's that much better of a human being. I mean, I've only been let down a couple of times in the wrestling business of, you meet your heroes and I won't say who, but you meet your heroes and they're just like, you realize, I realize why they say never meet your heroes because you can be disappointed. But Jay Lethal not only exceeded expectations, but he's a kind man and he's a good friend. He's supported me. He supported my gimmick. He supported my business. And he's always tries to help his students. And this isn't an indictment on any wrestling school, but you do hear horror stories where guys will go and train, or they'll pay a lot of money up front to go to this wrestling school or that wrestling school, and somebody famous is on the logo, and they'll say, basically they never see that person, whoever school. I can say with certainty, and it's currently doing now because I go and I still train there, because I'm not the best wrestler in the world, but I am a student of the game, and I still go and train with him. But he still does this. He's got a contract and he's working select indie dates, and he's still there training people like during the week.
That says a lot that he wants, listen, you're not the youngest cheese at the factory right now. I'm going to try getting some of these in as well. But he wants you to do your best, and he wants the rest of the, little cheeses to do well as well. So you have his name attached to you, as well as everybody else there. He doesn't want you guys all make him look like a schmuck, right?
That's true. That's true.
So,
But it's also that he gives you I just remember, this one promo where this one kid was really, really nervous. That was the hardest part. Like the promo part for me was easy because I got a big mouth. I've always loved talking.
couldn't tell. Sorry.
Easy, pal. I'm just kidding.
We're not going to be friends after this all of a sudden. No.
No, absolutely. We're going to be better friends. But it's not everybody, but a lot of people, when you're coming up and you're unsure of yourself, as I was just treading water as a young man, you're unsure of yourself and you're worried about the embarrassment. You're worried about looking like an ass, or you're worried about looking like this or like that. And you just kind of, sorry, there's a plane flying overhead.
Deplane. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Fantasy Island. Sorry.
But you sometimes people are unsure of themselves, and it's typically when they're a little bit younger and they're not quite as experienced at life. And I just remember whenever we were getting to the part of training when it was coming to, all right, you need to learn how to do promos. You need to learn how to advertise yourself. You need to learn how to talk about your next match and all the important parts of the psychology of a promo. And as we both know, Jay is a master at that, as his varied characters that he's been in the business. And there was this one kid that was super, super nervous, like so nervous he was shaking. And Jay turns from, like, when we're training, he turns from like coach style, Jay Lethal, like really, fundamentally sound, very athletic, everybody can do this. That was one of his things. He's like, anybody can learn this part. It's just putting them together correctly and learning what to say. But this kid was so nervous. Jay just turns into this big teddy bear, and he's just like, tell me who your favorite wrestler is. And he started asking him these really kind of leading questions, and got him to the point where he cut his own promo. This guy did. And it was one of those endearing moments that I just know, like, I'm proud to call Jay a friend. Like, he's my mentor. There's respect there. He's still Jay Lethal, because anytime I talk to him, I'm always like, Jay Lethal. I never just say casually Jay. I always call him Jay Lethal. Use the full thing, Jay Lethal. And he kind of gets a kick out of it. He laughs at me, but it's just an amazing moment to see how great of a teacher he is. I mean, he really, like, I think honestly, if he were to not, because he belongs in professional wrestling, he's an institution.
Yeah.
But if he were not a pro wrestler, he could have, if he was selling insurance, he would go in and he would teach you the fundamentals of selling insurance and be able to put on trainings and all that kind of stuff for it, because he is that good at training people and leading you to the right spot. So training at his school, and I'll give you the origin story of the cheese if you want that, if that's in your line of questioning.
It is. I wanted to know one other thing before the cheese comes along too. What was your hardest thing? Because clearly we know promos and talking and everything right up your alley. What was the hardest thing being a little bit older? I'm not knocking you for that, but being a little bit older, getting into it. Was it the psychology? Was it the running of the ropes, or the bumps or just, listen, normal people don't throw themselves on the ground? Was that rough?
Okay, so yeah, and it's
yes
still,
to all of that. No, sorry.
yeah, pretty much. It's like a yes and situation, but I would say not necessarily the psychology. I feel confident in my ability to tell a story in the ring, but I think the biggest thing was putting a sequence of moves together where it just didn't look like an idiot. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
yeah, because a drop kick into a headlock into another, just mashing stuff together. Everybody were like, what the hell is this guy doing?
Right.
There's no flow.
Correct. That and basically any chain wrestling. Like,
right.
like my friends in the business love to make fun of me because, like, oh yeah, you're never going to see chain wrestling in a cheese match because, cheese doesn't chain wrestle. And it's like, yeah, so what? Do you want to see Macho Man chain wrestle? I'm not comparing myself to him, but like, I'm saying, like, do you want to see Hulk Hogan chain wrestle? Do you even want to see Sting chain wrestle? No. You want to see their what became
Cena?
their greatest hits.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to see. Yeah, like everybody. And here's the thing: all the extra big moves and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot bigger when you do it less. And the old adage, "Less is more," really, really, really applies here. And so, yeah, like putting together sequences of moves and all that kind of stuff. Those were really the bigger things to me, man. Like, and yeah, the physicality was a little bit tougher on me. I'm fairly tough, I have a physical, job because I run a business. Like, it's a property maintenance business, and I do a lot of moving around and stuff. So I always stay fairly strong, but
it's a different strong. I mean,
it's a different type of strong. Yeah.
People are always like, you should be pretty strong from garbage. Yeah, I can throw garbage, but I'm not going to be able to lift up, Andre the Giant. It's a different body movement, Yeah.
Exactly. It's all different. And I think part of that too, one of the bigger things for me was that I would think too much. Because I always try and think 2 moves ahead, and I'm not talking about wrestling moves, but in life, I always try to think 2 moves ahead, which is a source of anxiety. But
ding, 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 ding. It's a wrestling within itself, but yes.
Yeah, this is like a therapy podcast at this point. But
by the way, Dr. Phil's my next guest.
But no, I don't. I try and think 2 moves ahead, and you try and do that in wrestling. You have to be very, 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 very good in order to do that. And wrestling has really taught me that you have to slow down and you have to take things one at a time, or give things one at a time. And I've kind of, as poetic as that sounds and as rehearsed as that sounds, it's true. I've had to do that in life as well.
Okay. So before we get to the cheese, one more thing.
Yeah.
Girlfriend, wife, all involved, prior you getting into wrestling or after you get into what I don't need to know the gist and all of that, but when you tell family members, I'm getting into wrestling, does dad rewind? Oh, that damn little Tykes chair is back to bite him in the ass. Like, what does everybody say about that then?
Okay, so I really...
You didn't tell anybody until the first match, right? You're going to tell me that.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You've heard the phrase "move in silence"? Mm-hmm. I moved in such silence that nobody even saw it coming until I did my first social media post on the whole deal. And I told a very, very few select people that I was training. And then when I had my first match, it was bam, pow, and then it was on the internet and it was on social media, and then people were coming out of the woodwork. But like, I would say, on average, I get 9 out of 10 support. Everybody's just like, yeah, great, yeah. And my wife's been she met me as a wrestler because she
likes cheese.
She loves cheese. That's why we had a baby. But
right.
But she's like my source of constant, undying support, because she met me when I had become the most me I've ever been. So
understand that if you learn anything during this podcast, those last couple words, becoming you, is number one. I'm not saying for you or for me. I'm just saying for anybody listening. That's
in general.
Become your number one. That just gave me shivers. Man, I love you. I really do. That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't expect. Really,
buddy.
really.
Great.
All right, tell me about the cheese. Where the hell did this come up with? And it fits you. Again, I don't know you worth Adam, but this is you.
I appreciate that, and it does. It really works, and it's continued to work. But there's what I was talking about earlier with Jay Lethal and the promo piece of this wonderful, beautiful business of pro wrestling. We had that, and it was my turn, and I didn't have any issues, but I also know that if I rehearse too hard, then it's gonna, because we knew the promo day was coming, right?
Right.
So you had a little bit of time to prepare, and I'd been saying promos in front of the TV since I was a tiny little boy. I was a little curdling, and I keep dropping them on you.
I know.
I hope that
you keep getting me.
Soundbite.
You don't hear me. Because I'm listening. I want to know about you, and you do shit like that.
I pull the old switcheroo on you.
Yeah.
But no, we're doing the promos, and Jay's there, Jay Lethal, and he's listening in. And do you know? Are you a Saturday Night Live fan at all?
Yeah, of course.
So the classic Chris Farley, Matt Foley, a motivational speaker,
yes.
living in a van down by the river,
going through tables with the jacket.
Yeah,
yes,
and then he's like, and you're living on a steady supply of government cheese. So I, as Jim Cornette says, I borrowed. I didn't steal. I borrowed, and I said, why does everybody in this room? And I wasn't saying anything about the cheese. I wasn't the cheese at this point. I was just regular old me as a person. But I was cutting a bad guy promo, a heel promo, as we say in the business.
Wow.
And I said, why does everybody in this room look and smell like they're on a steady supply of government cheese? And that was kind of the end of the promo. I from there, and then Jay, everybody in the room seemed to like it. Jay seemed to like it. It kind of made him chuckle a little bit, and he just says to me, that was good, but why are you so mad at that government cheese? He said, you were so passionate and so angry at that government cheese. And so then he started calling me government cheese. And then he got tired of the government and dropped it. And he just started calling me cheese. And from there, I wasn't just cheese anymore. I was the cheese. And I looked in the mirror and I said, this is who I am. I'm the cheese.
I'm the cheese.
And I ran with it, man. I had just got my first tattoo on one of those things you're talking about that I always wanted to do. I'd gotten it all over my left shoulder and all the way down my arm. And I got another one. The second one that I got was a big slice of cheese. And, so I was just like, I went for it. I was like, and if this whole thing it doesn't work out and I don't get to wrestle even one match, then I have a really cool story with this tattoo.
Right.
But it did, because and here's another fun fact. I only planned on working one match. Like, I just wanted to ever. I just wanted to. It was a find myself moment, man. It was a big purchase on betting on myself and who I was and who I am. Like I said, I'm more me than I've ever been in my entire life, and the cheese is a huge, huge part of that. And as the cheese, I went from one match, which I quietly, shed a tear and celebrated, because I devoted that privately to my, dearly beloved grandmother and grandfather, who instilled pro wrestling in me.
Yep.
And it was for them. But then it was almost as if not to get like uber spiritual or woo woo or anything on your podcast, but it was
No.
almost as if
Do it. I love it.
It's almost as if they were like, no, don't just do it for us. It's great that you did, but keep going, son. And here I am, almost 4 years later. And I'm, through a pandemic and through
a child,
yeah, and beginning of a business, and again, just continuing to find myself and find who I am, and not just who I am, but who I'm going to be. The cheese has been at the epicenter of that.
You were going to bust your ass and train so long for one match. Talk about dedication and love. That's a love for the business in my heart too, because that's craziness. One match and then I'm done.
I know. Not a lot of people know that. Like, I don't. It's not something I've talked about it maybe one other podcast and with one other person about it, but that I've only, not a lot of people know that about me. I wanted to do it to check that box, but not only check that box, but check it in a way that was honoring two people who sacrificed a lot of their adult time to spend with me as a family so we could watch,
Sting.
We could watch Sting. We could watch WCW, because I was a WCW guy for sure. Don't get me wrong. I switched the channel to WWF, but it was mainly WCW. And, before that it was the NWA, what we could get regionally.
Right. That's an amazing story. We're going to shift gears. We're going to step away from wrestling a minute and get on to some other things, then come back to wrestling. So we're going to take time. My son can walk home. I don't care. Whatever. No, I'm kidding. Hey, did you know that you're in a game, a wrestling game, like a card game? Do you know this?
A card game?
Yeah. Look up. You clearly don't, by the way. It's called NDW Generations. It's a like a board card wrestling game where you almost like Pokemon. I've never played Pokemon, but there's wrestling cards. You put it down. There's a card called the Cheese, and the cool thing about this is it's called the Cheese, but you're from Bradford, Pennsylvania, which is a half an hour away from me, where Zippo lighters, right? Where Zippo lighters are made, and I graduated college. Holy shit, round that off.
Dude, I got to play this game now.
I need to buy it all. I do. There's like 4 series, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this was 5 minutes before I called you. It just came up. I'm like, what is this? So I'm just scrolling, and the wife's like, what are you looking at? And I'm like, nothing, because I'm FaceTiming to tell her I'm getting ready, blah, blah, blah. What are you looking at? Why aren't you looking at me at your FaceTime? And I'm like, there's a wrestling game out that's got a guy already that I'm going to interview tonight, and I'm pretty sure he's got no idea that he's in this game, and he's from Bradford. She's like,
zero.
She's like, I thought he's from Florida. I'm like, he is, but the game says NDW Generations.
Got it.
Look it up.
I will look that up, and I'll be getting some cards from them. That's awesome. I love that type of concept for that sort of thing.
And the cool thing is, you weren't sure if you wanted to wrestle. You talked to a couple buddies. They got you into the wrestling. Now it's the whole freaking story. It really is. Check it out. All right.
Full circle.
So what are your 3 favorite cheeses? And you have to get me on one of them. Of course, I like the generics. I'm a provolone. I'm a baby Swiss. Mm-hmm. But tell me some of your favorite cheeses and sell me on them.
Okay, so my current, because cheeses are, any food or movie or music or whatever for me is like, it comes to mood, right? It comes to how I'm feeling at that particular time. And right now, the steady favorite is Havarti.
Okay.
If you go, you can go to a nice cheese store, or you can go and get it as cheaply as you want, but it's a nice, soft, nutty cheese, and especially if it's molded with dill, like some Havarti dill, it's like the perfect, just gently fragrant, awesome cheese. Like it works well with just about anything, and nobody talks about why it works well with just about anything. I don't know why, but it works. I mean, it could come down to personal preference, but that's number one right now. Number two is the Camembert. It's like
the what?
It's spelled CAM. I think it's EMBERT. So some say Camembert, like it's French,
Oh, it's
or
fancy.
some say, yes, it's the most bougie cheese I like, and some say Camembert. And I'm a
simpleton. I'm going to say Camembert.
Yeah, I'm white trash, so I'm going to say Camembert. So that's number two. And then honestly, dude, and this is, you're going to be like, this is a usual suspect, but it really is. You cannot. This is a fundamental thing. And when I come out to the ring, I throw these, and there are real cheeses like this. A lot of people say that's not even cheese, but the singles, mostly widely known as Kraft singles, it's processed cheese product, but there are some brands that make it with real cheese. Now those are quite a bit more expensive than your $3.29 package of
your Martinez cheese.
Yeah, like Kraft, please sponsor me.
Touche.
Or whoever.
We'll have to tag you in that.
Yeah, whoever wants to sponsor me, because like I throw out so many pieces of cheese to the audience whenever I walk out.
Are people eating it then? Are people like eating it?
Brother, not only are they eating it, they are bringing it up to me and they want me to sign it.
Fucking signed. Sorry, I'm swearing, but that's
I love it. Don't get me wrong.
No, I agree, but that's so.
Love it.
What are you gonna?
It's so strange.
You're just gonna keep it in the fridge the rest of your life. I'm gonna go morbid here. A little child at the age of 10 is gonna get the cheese to sign a piece of cheese. Now it's gonna sit in the fridge until the kid's 90. That's 80 years later. Their grandchildren are like, "What the hell is this? It says cheese on it. No shit, it's cheese. Throw it out." Well, I love you, but yes.
Here's the other thing though. It's you don't even have to set it in the fridge.
Well, no, you don't.
Set it inside.
Yeah,
and it'll be fine. As long as it doesn't melt. It's okay. And I've put those things in the back of my truck, because I also do this, and just a disclaimer for responsibility here, because I do have a lot of young fans.
Right.
The kids seem to love the cheese, and I'm very appreciative and grateful for their parents bringing them out to the shows. But when I throw the cheese out on my entrance and on my exit, I always make sure that those kids see me with a bucket after, when it's time to, clear out for the show and break down the chairs and all that stuff, as one does as an independent pro wrestler. I always make sure that I walk around and pick up the slices of cheese and make sure that those kids see me, because you don't want to teach kids that littering is okay, and that this wasting stuff is okay. Because to be honest, there are times where like I'll repackage some cheese and I'll put on there, "Do not eat."
This was tossed out last night into the other wrestling I was at.
But there are some people that just like, they take their life into their own hands, and they're just like, you know what? I'm going to eat this. And I'm like, I can't stop you, because you're a human. You have free will. So if you want to ignore that, go ahead.
Oh my God. I have to ask this because it just popped. Are you regular? Like, do you eat that much cheese? Do you have normal bowel movements? Like, I just see you just pounding cheese. How many times have you been asked that?
I quite honestly, there's on the special occasion, to answer your question, yes, okay. I'm very regular. My wife would say I'm too regular, but whether I walk out with a delicious cheese tray, a charcuterie board, because I also sell charcuterie boards that with my logo on them. If I walk out and I've got like fancy cheeses, whether it's those cheeses or whether it's Kraft singles or something else, yes, sir, I am pounding the cheese. But it's like it. I think it's such a part of my gut biome that like
imagine.
if I didn't eat cheese, I would probably
need to go to
just like
detox.
Yeah. You imagine like, what are you in here for? Well, I'm detoxing off of cheese.
Haven't had a singles in an hour, man.
Some poor person is like getting off of, some kind of substance abuse journey they were just on, and they're, going through all this spiritual stuff. And I'm like, I'm here because I haven't had enough cheese in the past 24 hours.
You're really looking for that government cheese now. Just breaking into Wawa's or whatever convenience store you have down there, wide-eyed.
Give me your cheese.
Dude, you can have all the money. No, I just want the cheese. Shred it. All right. Wrestling has changed since we were little and we watched it, and it's kind of a couple harder hitter questions. To the good, some still to the bad. What do you see in wrestling that still needs to change, though? One of those stigmas that are like, oh, man, because we talked about it at the beginning. People are like, oh, you're in wrestling. They're like, oh, yeah. They're thinking of something.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some things that are stigmatized. I honestly wish what I don't like, and I've heard people say this before, and these sort of things don't bother me. That honestly, when someone says this, they say it's the male soap opera. That doesn't bother me because that's just an opportunity for me to explain or talk about something I'm super passionate about with another human being. However, it does have this stigmatization or whatever. I'm making up words now. But
those are basically all. Can Crusher Nation knows that Mark usually uses those words too, so you're good.
But the stigma that comes along with wrestling, that it's a male soap opera type thing, and it's not art, it's just cheap. But when wrestling does something artful, and it creates a storyline that lasts, we have them, we can reference them. We've referenced Sting, referenced Nitro, the NWO, we've referenced different things in wrestling, and even my silly little character, like things like that have happened in wrestling are these like great comedic achievements, in my opinion. Yeah. Colt Cabana he is one of the shining lights in wrestling that should be shined on more, and people can take it as we have you have a fellow artist. If you're an artist, you have fellow artists among you in wrestling. There's just a little bit more of a physicality to it. It's not like, not everybody that watches wrestling is a meathead. Not everybody that watches wrestling are men. There's amazing women's wrestling that you can watch, and you can get involved in those storylines and appreciate those people and those characters and all the wonderful things that wrestling brings to the table. It's just, to me, the thing that needs to change, and it doesn't need to change from within, because when you're a wrestling fan and you're passionate about wrestling, you already know this, right? You already know that wrestling is art.
Right.
That pro wrestling is art, and it's not just for the sake of art. It is an art in and of itself. So it's just the outward view. And so I think that to help change that stigmatized part of what we do is to kind of try and be not like a pusher, but more of an ambassador, and just be like, yeah, I know what you're saying, man. Here's what I like, and here's what we do. And it's almost like sales kind of, but at the same time, it's like, it's just some people just like, well, if they don't know about it, then, I don't really care to try and explain it to them,
Market it. Market it as a fan. Like, exactly.
Yeah.
What's your favorite match that you would show a non-wrestling fan? Mine is going to be Steamboat Savage WrestleMania 3. Nothing will top that for me. If there's not a wrestling fan, I'm going to watch this for just this. And if you don't get engulfed in it, you really don't like it. You're not going to understand the Colt Cabana stuff, the NWO stuff. This is the high point of wrestling for me. What would that match be for you?
Well, to me, I would go with something from the Territory days. I'd go with a match from Dusty Rhodes and Harley Race. Go pick out something from that feud.
Yeah.
Because that was the pinnacle of territory wrestling in terms of, characterization. And because Dusty Rhodes, if Sting wasn't my absolute all-time favorite, Dusty Rhodes would be there, because at times they're neck and neck, and the American Cheese is obviously
I knew that one was coming.
Rip-off.
Yeah.
It's obviously a blatant rip-off, but it's not, I'm not stealing. I adore Dusty Rhodes. And if you listen to the Hard Times promo, I wouldn't even say it's necessarily a match, but show a non-wrestling fan who's just has their mind cracked open just enough to listen. Show them the Hard Times promo and the passion, the flamboyancy, just the hand gesturing and the accent and the nature of what Dusty Rhodes is saying to the TV, to the common man, woman, child. That if that passion doesn't resonate with that person, then that person is passionless, and they can go back to watching, I don't know, How It's Made or something. And I actually like How It's Made.
I like How It's Made, though.
I actually love How It's Made, so that's a bad example. But you get what I'm saying.
Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, something like that. I would show that, because there's so much art and passion and true thing, and that's the wonderful thing about pro wrestling, is that we live in this intersection of entertainment that mixes all different kinds of entertainment, comedy, athleticism, drama, spooky stuff. It's like I used to work at a Blockbuster Video, and I have a logo I call it the Cheesebuster Video logo, but it's just, instead of the ticket, it's a piece has been bitten out of it, and it just says the cheese. And so I pride myself on that little background. That's not one of the jobs that I had. That was a dead end job, and I was living for somebody else. That was one for me when I was in my 20s, and that was an amazing job. So fun, and I actually learned a lot. But we are basically. I have to digress, because I know I'm taking up a lot of time here to explaining something I'm super passionate about. But wrestling is like being able to go into a Blockbuster. It's more digital now, but when you could go in and you can choose you can choose horror, you can choose sci-fi, you can choose comedy, you can choose drama, you can choose award-winning stuff, and you can choose the indie films. Wrestling is a Blockbuster.
It really is. I love that.
You gotta embrace that, and if you're and instead of dismissing people that want to say, "Oh, that I don't know who that is," and some people love to do it just to get on your nerves. They're like, "Oh yeah, I have no idea what that is." That obnoxious character. Okay, well, if they're not interested, then you move on. But if they're engaged in conversation with it, you can explain it. You don't have to. You market it. You don't have to sell it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, agreed.
So
I agreed wholeheartly. That was better put than I would have put it. So yes.
That's how I feel about it. It's just I go based on the feel.
How much wrestling today do you get to watch? Are you fully engulfed in WWE, AEW, Impact, New Japan, anything like that? Or you just, I'm not saying hanging out with your friends, doing your wrestling? Is it just that, and that covers your need?
Partially. So I do, like, through osmosis, I watch a lot, and I always know kind of what, I have my finger on the pulse of what kind of going on for the most part through, WWE, AEW, Impact, MLW, New Japan, all that stuff. I typically know what storylines are what. And all the behind the scenes stuff that's available, like, it just happens. Like, I live in that world, but I don't watch every single episode. I DVR so I can watch a lot of my friends, because I have, friends that are on AEW and that have done the AEW dark matches, and people who have performed on there. So I would say I watch AEW more than anything right now, but that doesn't mean that
Jay Lethal's on there, so you damn well better.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Jay Lethal.
Absolutely, it's Jay Lethal. I absolutely have to, and he always laughs. And I tell him, like, I say it like an idiot because I kind of am, but I say, "Hey man, you're doing a great job out there," and he just laughs. He's like, "Okay, cheese." And then he
hates you.
Like,
he hates you.
It's funny. I'm just a big dumb redneck idiot, and he absolutely loves that. A guy from New Jersey, like, he doesn't like the two usually don't mix
at all. No,
we get along, and it's really great. But yeah, that's I try and stay current with everything.
Yeah, it's tough. It really is. And if somebody tells you, "Hey, I watch all 58 hours of professional wrestling that's on TV, and I watch, indies across the board too," cool. I am jealous of you. I'd like to do that, but I have a wife and a family I need to take care of, and I don't live in my mom's basement. So
right.
That's Mark saying that. It's not the cheese, but yes.
No, I get it. I mean, honestly, think about back when we were kids, man. You grab at any kind of wrestling that you could get at any time, and now it's more content than ever before. And my favorite thing is discovering new indies, not just working on, but like discovering a new promotion.
IWTV is amazing.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Title Match is awesome. Like, subscribe to that. I'll get rid of cable and just have those, but of course my family would rather watch, Bluey or whatever. By the way, you'll find out 16, he doesn't watch Bluey. Not that I know of, but still, yeah.
That's what everybody tells me, is Bluey is in my future. And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, oh, you'll know.
Oh, you'll know. My wife has, her godchild is 6, and we're engulfed in that when she comes over. Oh boy, you'll love it.
Oh my gosh.
Blue cheese. Blue cheese. All right, you're going to get this, and because I got to give you your time to talk about merch, where you're going to be, your socials and all that. But I asked this, and I put the little twist on it. I want your dream match. I want where, I want who, and I want the stipulation. Very pressing on this one, because this is one of my favorite questions.
So, and when you say that, and I've listened before, but I just want to make sure I'm clear, because I've never been in your hot seat. But when you say that, you want my dream match with my own opponent, or like the dream match of two people I'd really want to see?
No, your own opponent. And it can be, listen, it's his dream. If it's Stinger, Surfer Stinger, cool. If it's Dusty, God love him, it's Dusty. This is fantasy. Book your match that you wish that you could have in your lifetime.
Well, I mean,
I just gave them away. I know.
You kind of said it, like, but essentially, it would be, because I can't. The way I'd want it to be is, I'd want it to be Dusty Rhodes, and I'd want it to be in an ag hall, some kind of 4-H center that's like old school territory thing, with old school territory, like everything. I'd want it to be set. If we have, in a perfect world where I can go in the DeLorean and set this match up, I would go back to like 1982 and like meet up at the Armory in Tampa with Dusty Rhodes.
Nice.
And I would work him, and we'd work each other in just no crazy stipulations on the match, but what this would be, you know, Dusty saying, "Hey, this is the American cheese, baby," after the end of the match, of course, and kind of, you know, passing that Southern flamboyant torch to me to go off and create my own stuff and, you know, be kind of part of his legacy. This is like extreme crazed lunatic fantasy stuff I'm talking about here.
So
man.
you've thought about it. So some people are like, "Oh man, I don't know. I could say this one. I could go, do you know who this person is?" You have this written down on Moses's templates, clearly.
Brother, I could rattle off like 80 of these to you and still keep going, because but ultimately it would have to be, as much as I love Sting, because I love Sting so much, I just want to be on a tag team with him. Darby Allin, you have no idea. Maybe he does.
Well, Sting's not doing singles anymore, he said. So you would be a perfect tag for him.
I think so. I would love to do look, I would turn into like the biggest.
You're already marking out. I hear it in your voice. It's cracking. Oh my God, Sting! It's like meeting Taylor Swift.
I don't care who calls me a mark, who calls me this, whatever. I do not care. Sting is my absolute favorite, and Dusty Rhodes is right there with him. But if I could have a match with anybody, it would be Dusty Rhodes, and I would take every elbow and work every gimmick in that match just the exact way he tells me to, and just as long as at the end of that match I could somehow muster the charisma to do as much as he did in the ring every time he got in, you know, and he in a perfect world, at the end, the match would end with him basically giving me his blessing to say that I'm the American cheese, and move on from there. I mean, like, that's my ultimate dream if we lived in that type of world.
I love it. All right, this is your hot spots. This is your time. You have merch. Where can we buy it? What are your socials? And where are we going to see you in the next couple weeks?
Okay, so you can follow me on social media platforms. You can follow me on Twitter at TheCheesePW. You can follow me on Instagram at TheCheesePro, and you can follow me and like me on Facebook under The Cheese Pro Wrestling. And I have a pro wrestling tees store, but I do have I'm migrating some things to another site with a really good friend of mine and business partner. It's called Devoted Brand Clothing. I am going to be the exclusive wrestler for Devoted Brand Clothing, devotedbrand.com. And the cheese is going to be up there soon. This is an exclusive. I'm dropping this with you right now.
Nice.
So I partnered with another website for a long time, but they're kind of going in another direction. So I'm now partnering with Devoted Brand. And my friend Michael, who's been just an absolute saint at supporting me and all this. There's an amazing, I put it out on my Facebook page earlier. There's an amazing cheese hat that's coming out that's got the Cheese Buster logo on it. It's going to be insane. And there's some really cool designs for shirts, because I got designs for days, brother.
Right, your cheese. You should be able to rack off 5 or 10 a year, if not just, you're a store of yourself.
It's so fun. It's one of the most fun things that I do. And but yeah, I drop merch stuff here. I also do. I didn't talk about this because I was blathering on about other things, but I also do trivia. So there's Trivia with the Cheese. You can follow me on Facebook under Trivia with the Cheese. And I do that a couple nights a week. That's a really fun time. Anybody who's in St. Pete and Tampa Bay region, come out and see me. But yeah, there's some big things, big announcements coming. I've got shows throughout this month on the 28th, Classic Wrestling Association from Florida, down in Arcadia, Florida. But the two biggest things that I want everybody to take away from this, and if you can travel to Florida, it would totally be worth it. Even if you came all the way from Pennsylvania, there are two shows that I really want everybody that listens to your podcast to know about. And one is Classic Wrestling Association from Florida. It's going to be in Arcadia. It's the DeSoto County Fair. And people say, oh, it's a fair show. You don't want to go to the fair shows. Well, let me tell you something, brother. You want to go to this fair show because this show is going to be a very, very, very special show on Friday, February the 10th at the DeSoto County Fair. We're going to have none other than Jay Lethal. And Jay Lethal is going to be
Jay Lethal.
This is another exclusive for you. Jay Lethal is going to be teaming with the Cheese. We're going to have Lethal Cheese up in the house. So we're going to be Lethal Cheese is going to be the tag team of the night. And we're facing off of a couple of other chuckleheads who are getting in there and wanted to attack me behind the scenes. And I got a hold of my pal Jay Lethal, and he says, hey, we're going to do this. And so we're doing that Friday, February 10th. Also there will be Bushwhacker Luke. He's going to be doing a meet and greet, and who knows, he may even mix it up in the ring. So come on out for that one. And then on February 11th, in Melbourne, Florida, for Atomic Revolutionary Wrestling, the card is already stacked for that show. That is a huge show. There's going to be a lot for an independent wrestling show. This is one you really don't want to miss if you can be in Florida during that time. It's on the opposite coast from me, but it's worth the drive. It's there. Eric Bischoff's going to be on that show. Jerry Briscoe's going to be on that show. His son Wes Briscoe. There's countless names that are going to be on this show. My buddy Luigi Primo is going to be on the show, which leads into the match that I'm in. It's going to be myself, Luigi Primo, and Bushwhacker Luke versus, I can't even say their tag team name without laughing, but it's Jerry Swirls and El Ridiculoso and Techno Destructo of Guar. So this is like...
That's what I love right there.
This is multiverse that has like folded in on itself, and the whole entire wrestling world is going to be on its knees for this show. So if you come to Florida and you have any time, and it's around the 10th or the 11th, go to one or both of these shows if you can go to them, because it's going to be, and people use this loosely, but I'm going to use it with pride and proper. It is going to be absolutely epic.
I agree. I need to figure stuff out. One, Jerry Swirls. He's a Can Crusher alum.
Yeah.
Luke. No, I know Luke. I know you, Luigi. I'd love to have on the show. Guar. It's Guar, for the love of God. Right?
And who knows? I don't know. I'm going to have to load up on cheese, because that guy, Techno Destructo, is going to be rolling in with some kind of crazy, insane gadget gimmick that is probably going to have to I don't know how he's going to get it to us.
Add Bischoff being, this is an epic show in the making. I'm pumped.
It absolutely is, man. And ARW has been really good to me. They've given me a lot of really great and interesting, funny, and just like fulfilling opportunities. And the same with CWA as well. So those are two independent outlets that I really hope that people will dial into.
Honey, if you're listening to this and you made it this far, airline tickets, cash in some of your whatever. We have family down there in Orlando, so we can figure out sleeping on porches
Super
and
close.
stuff. So, yeah, we're all right with
Yeah.
that. It's just, this will be the first time she's ever flown, by the way. She hates flying. And we're not bringing a Jeep Wrangler 24 hours down from Pennsylvania.
No.
Even though I would, but yeah. All right, did I miss anything? You want to bring up anything else? We need to revisit this. We need to.
Will you have me back?
I need more cheese in my life. I need byproducts. I need whatever.
No, I greatly appreciate you having me on. I'm glad you're alive.
Thanks.
I'm
glad your wife's okay.
Yeah, thank you. But you really are this. You know what's really ironic about this, and it's before I ever reached out to you. The one thing, because my daughter was born just the week before Christmas, so like gifts getting and receiving were not on the top of our minds because we got the greatest gift of all, right?
Right.
But the only thing that I asked for, because I drink a lot of sparkling water, right? Like a metric ton of it. And I have all these cans and I refuse to not recycle them. They're getting recycled. So in order to save space with all the cans that accumulate, the one thing I asked for Christmas?
It's a can crusher.
A can crusher, my friend. And if you go to my Instagram page, you will see
you get me!
that I got a yellow can crusher that's it's the main thing other than my beautiful, perfect daughter. The only other thing that I got was a yellow a cheesy can crusher. So this is fate, man.
It really was. It's amazing. Cheesy fate.
That's what you should call this episode.
Right. Cheesy fate with the cheese.
Yeah.
Jeez, we've hit it off from number one. I'm a dad. You'll get these moments too. I love you. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. This was a great episode. Thank you for reaching out to checking on me. We connected, and I can't wait. More, please. Figure out February, Kelly. We got to go.
Let's do it. I love you too, pal. I really appreciate you, man. I can't say enough good things.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is a Big Daddy Cheese, the American cheese, if you will. I had to at least once. Man, friendship blown up right there. This man is a wonderful human being. You've heard me tell him I love him a couple times. I'll say it one more time. This was great. This was everything I needed and more. And more and more. More cheese to come. More of everything to come. Guys, if you like this interview and you want to be part of this whole thing that we call Can Crushers Spotlight, slide into a DM on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Slide into the old-fashioned email, cancrusher69@gmail.com. Yeah, tell me your story. Tell me what's up. Let's do this. Let's see if you can top cheese. Can anything top cheese? I don't know. We'll have to find out. Remember, guys, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called the garbage can, not a garbage cannot. Make sure you tell your loved ones you love them, because you never know.